I'd like to get your thoughts on the South China Sea. As a military guy, ex-military guy, how concerned are you about China's actions there?
I'm pretty concerned. China is pushing, they seem to be trying to take a little more ground every time. And I worry sometimes if and when the United States will be willing to take some action. I think the United States will be willing to take some action a decade plus ago in 2012 at Scarborough Shoal. From the Philippine point of view, the United States did not sort of honor its treaty obligation, and that did tremendous damage for our credibility and reputation in the Philippines. I hope that doesn't happen. I can see a very similar incident developing at Sabina Show right now in the South China Sea with between the Philippines and China, and so I'm a little bit concerned, but we'll have to see. Hopefully, we've learned our lesson. The United States has.
I mean, the recent comments by Admiral Samuel Paparo,
Yeah.
and basically reinforcing what Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, said. It seems that it'd be very hard to back down from.
It would be. I think it would be very hard to back down. But that's the incident where somebody dies, which is certainly an issue. We've seen some dangerous. We had, I think, a Filipino sailor lose his thumb.
All right. So you're actually saying that, that mutual defense treaty, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
It doesn't
right.
need to be triggered by Marcos's, the death of a
Well,
Filipino.
the treaty would be, but and we've been clear about that. And I think if a Filipino sailor died, there would be repercussions. I'm not saying the United States would go to war or do anything kinetic, but I think there would be, I don't know if it would be sanctions type issues, some kind of diplomatic or what have you. But the United States would certainly be obligated to go to the Philippines and say, okay, how do we, and take the actions we need to make that right. But in a Sabina Shoal, Scarborough Shoal incident, the treaty may not even ever officially be triggered, but we still, in that situation, we, the United States, end up sort of losing credibility.
Right.
In a big way.
Yeah. If there's that loss of that territory to China.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's happened. So going back to the Taiwan contingency, should an invasion actually occur, what nations or which nations do you expect could be drawn into this conflict?
I think Japan for certain, in some capacity, just because the United States will be basing out of there as a minimum, and also Japan, I think, would feel, to do some kind of active defense of its own territory. I believe that Australia would be there. I'd like to think the United Kingdom. And yeah, I'm not sure about the rest. It really would depend how the circumstances unfold, I think.
And how about South Korea?
I think about South Korea and Europe, our allies in Europe, the same way, where if we really got into it with China, we would probably be withdrawing significant forces from South Korea and from Europe in order to backfill, right? So that we could flow forces toward wherever the China contingency. And then the South Korean forces and NATO forces in Europe would then have to sort of kind of stay put, if you will, to create the deterrence of North Korea and Russia.
Okay.
I think that would be how they think about it and how they'd be best employed, most likely. And that's because they're all going to try to take advantage of this situation. They're all working together. As China and Russia have had more joint military exercises this year than we've seen forever. The North Koreans are supplying the Russians, the Iranians are supplying Russians. So we have to assume that there will be some kind of simultaneity, right? Just the opportunistic of this axis of chaos,
right.
I guess, is my co-author, Matt Pottinger, put it.
Yeah. Do you think that there would be any kind of consultation between this axis? I mean, we know that Xi Jinping was not consulted, or do we know that before the invasion of Ukraine?
I don't know that we know. My impression, and I can't say this with any certainty, my impression is that Xi Jinping gave the do what you need to do, but don't do it till after the Olympics, right? Which is exactly what happened. So now whether Xi Jinping knew it would be to the extent it was, maybe he thought, I've heard reports that maybe he thought it was going to be something less. But there was obvious, I mean, to me it seems obvious it was 2 days after, day after the Olympics ended, right? And you've heard the kind of hot mic moment that Xi Jinping, when he went, I think in March of 2023 to Russia, March or April, and kind of got caught when he was saying goodbye to Putin.
Talking about the changes in 100 years.
Yeah. Well, more importantly, yes, there are changes on in a century, but more importantly, he said, together, you and I are driving these changes. So I think there's maybe not detailed coordination, but I think it's, that alone tells me it's coordination, right? And they've spent so much time together, those two. So, I think recently, the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, Kirk Campbell, has even said that, we consider, I think he considers, that effectively China's also providing lethal assistance
to Russia. Okay.
in their war.